She worked every night for 5 years, invisible to everyone until the emergency trauma call came through. When she looked at the wounded soldier and whispered 3 words in perfect Arabic, the entire medical team froze. Those weren't words you learn in nursing school. The fluorescent lights of St. Mary Hospital cast an eerie glow over the midnight corridors. Hallways stretched endlessly, illuminated only by the red glow of emergency exit signs. The quiet hours of the night shift, between 3 and 5 a.m., when the hospital seemed to take a deep breath. Dr. Sarah Chen, the night shift nurse for the trauma unit, knew this silence intimately. For 6 years, she had walked these same corridors every night, checking on the same patients, writing the same reports. A middle-aged woman at 38, Sarah always kept her black hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her face showed the traces of long hours and fatigue, but her eyes were always alert and watchful. Tonight had started like every other night. She had arrived for her shift at 11 p.m., received the report from the day crew. 3 patients, Mr. Rodriguez, 62, recovering from a heart attack, Mrs. Kim, 45, motor vehicle accident, and young Adam Miller, 28, post-appendectomy. Sarah began her patient rounds. Mr. Rodriguez was stable, heart rhythm steady. Mrs. Kim was sleeping, vital signs normal. Adam Miller had some discomfort, but that was expected. Quiet night, Sarah murmured to herself. Experienced nurses knew better than to say those words. They were considered bad luck. But tonight felt different somehow. At 2:30 a.m., she took her coffee break. The hospital cafeteria was closed, so she used the automatic coffee machine in the nurses' station. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the cup, not from fatigue, but from some kind of tension, as if something was about to happen. She looked out the window. City lights sparkled in the distance. The hospital was located on the outskirts of town, somewhat isolated. Usually this gave her peace, away from the noise, quiet. But tonight it felt different. At 3:15 a.m., the first call came. Nurse Chen to emergency bay, immediate assistance needed. Sarah set down her coffee and began running. When she reached the emergency department, seeing Dr. Martinez wasn't surprising. Martinez was a young, energetic doctor, the only physician on the night shift. Sarah, incoming trauma, Martinez said, hanging up the phone. Multiple casualties, ETA 5 minutes. How many? Sarah automatically switched to preparation mode. At least 4. Severe injuries. That's all they said. Sarah nodded and began preparing the trauma room. She checked medical supplies, prepared IV sets, turned on monitors. This was routine. She had done it for years, but tonight felt different. At 3:22 a.m., ambulance sirens were heard, not just one, but multiple. Sarah looked out the window and was surprised to see 3 ambulances, all with flashing red lights and blaring sirens. Big one, Martinez muttered. When the first ambulance arrived, Sarah was waiting at the door. When it opened, the scene shocked her. The injured man was wearing a military uniform, desert camouflage, covered in blood. What the hell? Martinez whispered. The wounded soldier was young, maybe 25. His face had blast injuries. His left leg was bleeding heavily. As they brought the stretcher inside, the man was rambling in a language that wasn't English. Trauma 1, Sarah directed. She was on autopilot. She knew what to do in these situations. The second ambulance arrived. This time, there were 2 wounded, both in military uniforms. One was unconscious, the other appeared to have been shot in the chest. Trauma 2 and 3, Sarah quickly organized. When the third ambulance arrived, Sarah really began to worry. This casualty was worse. His leg was nearly severed, massive blood loss. "I need backup," Martinez shouted to Sarah. "Call other doctors. This is beyond us." Sarah reached for the phone, but at that moment the first wounded soldier looked directly at her. His eyes were filled with pain, but he was conscious. "Ustatha, Ustatha," he whispered. Sarah froze. She knew that word. It meant teacher in Arabic, but she couldn't explain to herself how she knew it. When the soldier saw her, recognition flickered in his eyes. Anti, he continued. Sarah's heart began racing. She knew what the soldier was trying to say, but here, in this hospital, with this identity, this past. "Sarah!" Martinez shouted. "I need you here now!" Sarah composed herself and went to the wounded soldier. While Martinez checked vital signs, Sarah examined the wound. The leg injury. A wound like this could only come from an IED explosion, improvised explosive device, a roadside bomb. "Where are they from?" Sarah asked Martinez. "No idea. Ambulance said they were found near the military base, some kind of training accident." Sarah understood at that moment. These weren't training accidents. These men had come from real operations. But which operation? And why had they been brought here? The first wounded soldier looked at Sarah again. This time he tried to speak more clearly. "Habibi, Ana Arif, friend, I know. You." Sarah's hands began to tremble. The soldier recognized her. But this was impossible. She had left that past behind years ago. "Sarah, what's wrong?" Martinez noticed. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Sarah took a deep breath. "I'm fine. Let's focus on the patients." For the next hour, Sarah worked on autopilot. She cleaned wounds, sutured, connected IV lines. But her mind was elsewhere. The soldier's words echoed in her ears. Martinez was trying to stabilize them, but was obviously struggling. "I need more help," he said. "This is beyond our capabilities." Sarah was assessing the wounded soldier's conditions. First soldier, leg wound serious but manageable. Second soldier, chest wound with complications, possibly punctured lung. Third soldier, unconscious, possible head trauma. Fourth soldier, leg amputation risk. "We need to transfer them," Martinez decided, "to a trauma center." "No," Sarah suddenly spoke. "We can handle this." Martinez looked at her in shock. "Sarah, this is major trauma. We don't have the equipment or expertise." Sarah paused for a moment. She had been waiting for and dreading this moment for years, but these men would die if she didn't do something. "Trust me," Sarah said. "I know what I'm doing." She went to the wounded soldiers. The first soldier was still conscious, trying to recognize her. Sarah leaned down and whispered in his ear. 3 words, in Arabic, with perfect pronunciation. "Ana ma'aki, Salim." "I'm here. You're safe." The soldier's eyes widened. He recognized her. Then he relaxed. The entire medical team froze. Dr. Martinez, the other nurses, everyone was staring at Sarah. "Sarah," Martinez's voice was barely a whisper. "How do you know Arabic?" Sarah didn't answer. She went to the second soldier. This soldier was in worse condition, shot in the chest, struggling to breathe. Sarah placed her hand on his chest and listened to his pulse. Then she turned to Martinez. "Pneumothorax," she said. "Left lung collapsed. I need a chest tube." Martinez stared in shock. "You can't diagnose that without an X-ray." "I can hear it." Sarah's voice was firm and authoritative. "Get me the chest tube kit." Martinez hesitated for a moment, then saw the determination in Sarah's eyes. There was an expression there he had never seen before. One accustomed to authority, accustomed to giving orders. "Nurse Johnson," Sarah turned to another nurse, "I need you to prepare the emergency surgery kit for the leg amputation." "Sarah, what are you doing?" Martinez asked. "Saving their lives," Sarah replied, "because no one else here can." Sarah's entire demeanor changed. She was no longer the tired, quiet night nurse. Her movements were precise, her directives clear. She was controlling everything. "Dr. Martinez," she said, "I need you to handle the head trauma patient. Check for intracranial bleeding." "Sarah, you can't just—" "Now, doctor." Sarah's voice was so authoritative that Martinez didn't argue. Sarah went to the soldier with the chest wound. She prepared the chest tube kit and began. Her hands weren't trembling at all, making very precise movements, as if she had done this thousands of times. "Local anesthetic," she said to Nurse Johnson. "Sarah, this is a surgical procedure," Johnson protested. "You can't." "I can and I will." Sarah's eyes locked with Johnson's. "Unless you want to watch him die." Sarah inserted the needle into the patient's chest, exactly the right place, at exactly the right angle. She placed the chest tube and connected it. Air immediately began escaping, and the patient's breathing improved. "Jesus," Martinez whispered. "Perfect placement." Sarah didn't respond. She went to the third patient, the soldier at risk of leg amputation. This was more complicated. The leg was nearly completely severed, massive blood loss, in shock. Under normal circumstances, this patient would definitely need to be transferred to a major trauma center. But Sarah wasn't under normal circumstances. "I need tourniquets," she said, "and vascular clamps." Sarah, this is way beyond. Get me the equipment! Sarah's voice echoed through the hospital corridors. Johnson and the other nurses ran to get the supplies. Sarah began working. Her hands moved like a surgeon's hands. She found vessels, clamped them, stopped the bleeding. Impossible, Martinez whispered. You're doing vascular surgery. Sarah continued working. She sutured muscles, repaired vessels, using completely professional surgical techniques. Sarah, Martinez approached. Where did you learn this? Sarah looked at him. At that moment, Martinez saw Sarah's true face. When the tired nurse mask fell away, there was someone completely different underneath. Someone confident, experienced, battle-tested. Places that don't exist on maps, Sarah replied, continuing her work. At 6:30 a.m. as the sun rose, Sarah completed the final suture. All 4 patients were stable. All would survive. Hospital administration had arrived. Chief of Staff Dr. Patterson, Director of Nursing Mrs. Chen, and several administrators, all trying to understand the miracle Sarah had performed. Nurse Chen, Doctor, Patterson began. We need to talk. Sarah washed her hands and removed her scrubs. She was wearing normal clothes underneath, but she no longer looked normal. I know, Sarah said. Where did you learn those techniques? Mrs. Chen asked. Before Sarah could answer, 2 men entered the emergency department. They were in civilian clothes but had obvious military bearing. One was in his 50s, gray-haired, confident. The other was younger, in his 30s, alert. Excuse me, the gray-haired man approached. We're looking for the medical team that treated our soldiers. You are, Dr. Patterson asked. Colonel James Murphy, U.S. Army Medical Command. The man showed his ID. This is Major Williams. Sarah froze. She knew this name. Colonel Murphy. She had known him since Operation Desert Storm. Colonel Murphy looked around, then saw Sarah. His expression changed. He recognized her. Well, I'll be damned, he said slowly. Phoenix. All the hospital personnel looked at Sarah. Phoenix, what did that mean? Sarah took a deep breath. Hello, Jim. Phoenix, Major Williams also recognized her. We thought you were dead. I was supposed to be, Sarah replied. Dr. Patterson intervened. I'm sorry, but who is Phoenix? Colonel Murphy looked at Sarah. That's not my story to tell. Sarah nodded silently. Then she turned to the hospital administrators. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen, she said. But 5 years ago I was Major Sarah Phoenix, U.S. Army Medical Corps, the Special Operations. Silence. I was deployed to Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, classified operations. When my unit was compromised, I was declared KIA, killed in action. Mrs. Chen's face was shocked. But you're alive. That was the point, Sarah explained. Sometimes the best way to stay alive is to be officially dead. Colonel Murphy stepped forward. Dr. Chen, Major Phoenix, saved more lives in combat than any field surgeon I've ever known. She earned 3 Purple Hearts and a Silver Star. So why are you here? Dr. Patterson asked. Working night shift? Sarah looked out the window. Because I wanted to save lives without anyone shooting at me. In the hospital conference room, Sarah told her story. Only the parts she could tell. I was recruited for Special Operations Medical Corps right out of medical school, she began. Specialized training, combat surgery, trauma medicine, survival techniques. How young were you? Martinez asked. 26, young and idealistic. I wanted to save lives and serve my country, Colonel Murphy continued. Major Phoenix was assigned to the most dangerous operations, places where conventional medical support couldn't reach. Afghanistan, Dr. Patterson asked. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, other places I can't mention, Sarah nodded. I worked with Special Forces, Navy SEALs, Delta Force, wherever soldiers needed immediate medical attention in hostile territory. The Arabic, Martinez realized. You learned it there. I learned Arabic, Farsi, Pashto, Kurdish. When you're treating injured locals, language matters. Major Williams added, Major Phoenix was known for going behind enemy lines to treat wounded soldiers. She saved lives that no one else could reach. So what happened? Mrs. Chen asked. Sarah's face darkened. 2019, Syria. My unit was embedded with a Kurdish force fighting ISIS. Intelligence was bad. We walked into an ambush. Silence. My entire unit was killed. 12 good soldiers. I was the only survivor. But you were declared KIA, Dr. Patterson pointed out. Because I was supposed to be dead, Sarah explained. The ambush was set up by someone on the inside, someone who knew our location, our timing, our strength. Colonel Murphy's jaw tightened. We never found the mole. So I stayed dead, Sarah continued. Officially KIA, buried with full honors. But I was extracted by a Kurdish family who found me. They nursed me back to health for 3 months. And then, Martinez was captivated. I made my way back to the States. Different identity, different life. The Army thought I was dead, so I stayed dead. But why here? Dr. Patterson asked. Why night shift nursing? Sarah smiled sadly. Because I still wanted to save lives, and because no one looks twice at a night shift nurse. Colonel Murphy leaned forward. Phoenix, we need you back. No, Sarah's response was immediate. The Army has evolved. We have better intelligence, better support. I said, no, Jim. Sarah's voice was firm. Why? Major Williams asked. Sarah looked at the 4 injured soldiers, now stable and sleeping. Because I can save lives here without anyone dying. But you're wasted here, Colonel Murphy protested. Your skills... My skills are exactly where they need to be, Sarah interrupted. Those 4 soldiers are alive because I was here. How many others might need help here? Dr. Patterson spoke up. Dr. Chen, your credentials from your military service. We could offer you a position as an attending physician. Trauma surgery. Sarah considered this. I'd need to complete my residency. With your experience, we could fast-track that, Patterson assured her. But I want to stay on night shift, Sarah said. Why? Mrs. Chen asked. Because that's when people need help the most, and because, Sarah smiled, no one expects the night shift nurse to be the one who saves the day. Colonel Murphy stood up. Phoenix, I can't make you come back, but I want you to know, you're one of the finest soldiers I've ever served with. Thank you, Jim, but I'm not a soldier anymore. I'm a healer. You always were, Murphy replied. That's what made you special. A week later, Sarah's life began to change. Hospital administration had offered her a position in the trauma fellowship program. They had suggested she move to the day shift, but Sarah chose to stay on nights. Now she worked as both a nurse and an unofficial trauma consultant. Why do you want to stay on nights? Martinez asked during their coffee break. Because that's when the interesting cases come in, Sarah replied, and because I like the quiet. Quiet? After what happened last week? Sarah smiled. That wasn't quiet, that was purpose. News of Sarah's heroic actions had spread throughout the hospital. Nurses sought her advice, doctors consulted her on difficult cases, but she remained modest, preferring to work in the background. Phoenix, Martinez had started calling her. Sarah, she always corrected him. Phoenix died in Syria. Did she? Martinez asked, because I think she rose from the ashes. Sarah thought about this. Maybe he was right. Maybe Phoenix hadn't died. Maybe she had just been waiting for the right moment to emerge. 3 months later, Sarah had become St. Mary Hospital's unofficial night guardian. Difficult cases, unusual injuries, emergency surgeries, all came to Sarah. But most importantly, she had begun mentoring other healthcare workers. She taught advanced techniques to young nurses, showed trauma response to medical students. Sarah, young nurse Katie approached. Can you show me how to read cardiac rhythms better? Of course, but first tell me, what do you see when you look at a patient? Vital signs? Symptoms? Look deeper, Sarah advised. See the person, their story, their fear, their hope. Medicine isn't just about fixing bodies, it's about healing souls. Katie nodded, taking notes. And remember, Sarah continued, everyone has hidden depths. The quiet patient might be a war veteran. The scared teenager might be braver than she knows. The tired night shift nurse might be exactly who you need when everything goes wrong. At midnight, Sarah was making her usual rounds. When the hospital was quiet, that's when she could collect her thoughts best. Her phone rang, an unexpected number. Hello? Phoenix, this is Murphy. Sarah paused. Jim, I told you, I know, but listen. We have a situation, a medical emergency in a classified location. We need someone with your skills. Send a military medical team. We can't. This is delicate. Civilian location can't be officially military. Sarah sighed. What kind of situation? Hostage situation, injured civilians. The perpetrators won't allow official medical teams inside. So you want me to go in as a civilian doctor? Exactly. You're not officially military. You're just Dr. Chen from St. Mary Hospital. Sarah thought about this. What aren't you telling me? The hostages include 2 of our undercover assets. If they die, a major operation gets compromised. And if I go in and get killed, then you'll be a hero, again. Sarah looked around the quiet hospital, her domain, her peace. I'll need backup, she said finally. You'll have it, but unofficial. When? Now. Transport is waiting outside. As Sarah left the hospital, she didn't tell anyone. She just told the charge nurse, emergency consultation. A black SUV was waiting outside. Major Williams was inside. Phoenix, he greeted her. Sarah, she corrected. I'm Dr. Chen tonight. Right, here's the situation. Williams briefed her during the drive. Office building downtown. 5 hostages, 3 gunmen. 2 of the hostages are our assets, but we can't acknowledge them. Medical situation? 1 hostage shot in the leg. Another having what appears to be a heart attack. The perpetrators called for a doctor but won't allow police or military medics. So I'm just a civilian doctor volunteering? Exactly. Your cover story is that you're off duty, heard about the situation, volunteered to help. Sarah nodded. This felt familiar. Not the specific situation, but the need to be someone else, to hide her true capabilities while using them. Equipment? Basic medical bag, nothing that would suggest military training. They arrived at the scene. Police perimeter, news vans, crowd of onlookers. Sarah took a deep breath and stepped out of the vehicle. Dr. Chen? A police captain approached. Thank you for volunteering. No problem. What's the medical situation? 2 injured hostages. The perpetrators have agreed to let you in, but no one else. Sarah nodded. I'll need to assess and treat. How long do I have? As long as it takes, but be careful. These guys are unstable. Sarah approached the building. At the entrance, she called out, I'm Dr. Chen. I'm here to help the injured people. The door opened slightly. A young man with a gun peered out. You alone? Yes, I'm just a doctor. Come in. Slowly. Sarah entered the building. Inside, she saw the hostages, 5 people sitting against the wall, hands bound. 2 were clearly the injured ones. Where are the patients? She asked. One of the gunmen pointed to the injured hostages. Sarah approached them professionally, calmly. The first patient was a middle-aged woman with a leg wound, gunshot but not life-threatening. The second was an older man clutching his chest. Heart attack? Sarah asked. The man nodded weakly. Chest pain. Can't breathe. Sarah opened her medical bag and began working. As she treated the patients, she carefully observed the situation. 3 gunmen, nervous, probably amateur. Hostages scared but not panicked. One of the hostages caught her eye. Young woman, maybe 30, trying to look scared, but Sarah recognized the signs. Trained individual, staying calm, assessing. What's your name? Sarah asked quietly while treating the heart attack patient. Jennifer, the woman replied. Sarah nodded. One of the assets. As Sarah worked, she made eye contact with Jennifer. Subtle signs, military hand signals. Jennifer's eyes showed she understood. Heart medication? Sarah asked the older man loudly. In my pocket, he gasped. Sarah reached for his pocket, but her hand brushed against Jennifer's. Quick finger movements, tactical sign language. 2 more assets outside, Jennifer signaled silently. Sarah acknowledged with a barely perceptible nod. I need to call for an ambulance, Sarah told the gunman. This man needs hospital treatment. No calls, the lead gunman said. Then he'll die, Sarah replied matter-of-factly. Is that what you want? The gunmen argued among themselves. While they were distracted, Sarah moved to treat the leg wound. Status? She signaled to Jennifer. Waiting for opportunity, Jennifer replied. Sarah assessed the tactical situation. 3 gunmen, but they were nervous, poorly positioned. If she could create a distraction? I need more light, Sarah announced. The wound is deeper than I thought. She moved toward the window, ostensibly to get better light, but really she was positioning herself. The bleeding is controlled, she reported, but both patients need immediate hospital care. We're not done here, the lead gunman said. What do you want? Sarah asked directly. We want the government to release our people. Sarah nodded. Political hostage situation. How long have you been planning this? That's not your concern, Doctor. Actually, it is. Because if you've been planning this for a while, you probably have an exit strategy, and that exit strategy probably involves letting the hostages go. The gunmen exchanged looks. Sarah had guessed correctly. But if the hostages die, Sarah continued, your exit strategy becomes a murder charge. What are you suggesting? The lead gunman asked. Let me take the injured hostages to the hospital. The healthy ones stay. That reduces your liability and shows good faith. Sarah was creating options. For the hostages, for the assets, for the tactical team outside. Negotiations continued for another hour. Sarah managed to convince the gunman to let her take the 2 injured hostages to the hospital. But you come back, the lead gunman insisted. Of course, Sarah agreed. I'm a doctor. I took an oath. Jennifer was one of the hostages being released. As they prepared to leave, Sarah whispered to her, Signal the team. Tell them I'll create an opening at 2 a.m. Jennifer nodded almost imperceptibly. Sarah helped the injured hostages out of the building. Outside, ambulances were waiting. As they loaded the patients, Jennifer approached her. Dr. Chen, she said loudly enough for observers to hear, thank you for saving my life. That's what doctors do, Sarah replied. Quietly, Jennifer added, the team is ready. How will you create the opening? Medical emergency, Sarah replied. I'll need to make one of them think he's having a heart attack. How? Sarah smiled. Trust me. She returned to the building as promised. The remaining gunmen were more nervous now. The situation was dragging on and they knew time was against them. Doctor, the lead gunman said. How much longer? That depends, Sarah replied. Have you eaten today? What? When did you last eat? Any of you? The gunmen looked at each other. This morning, maybe? And you've been under stress for hours. Anyone feeling dizzy, nauseous? One of the younger gunmen nodded. Yeah, actually. Sarah moved toward him. Let me check your pulse. As she took his wrist, she pressed on a specific pressure point, not enough to harm him, but enough to make him feel lightheaded. Your pulse is irregular, she announced. When did you last take any medication? I don't take any medication. Are you feeling chest tightness, shortness of breath? The power of suggestion. The young man's eyes widened. Yeah, I am. You might be having a cardiac event, Sarah said seriously. Stress-induced. The lead gunman looked concerned. Is he okay? He needs immediate medical attention. I can treat him, but I need to call for backup. No calls? Then he might die, and you'll be responsible. The gunmen were panicking. Their colleague was now sitting down, breathing heavily, convinced he was having a heart attack. What do you need? The lead gunman asked. I need to get him to a hospital, now. We can't, then at least let me treat him properly. I need to get some equipment from my car. The lead gunman hesitated, then nodded. Go, but come back. Sarah left the building again. Outside, she found Major Williams. Status? He asked. 1 gunman down with fake heart attack, 2 remaining, both panicked, 3 hostages left, all healthy. Entry plan? I'm going back in with cardiac medication that will actually be a mild sedative. When they're down, Jennifer's team can move in. Williams nodded. Equipment? Sarah was handed a small vial. Fast-acting sedative. Tasteless. How will you administer it? In their water. They're dehydrated and stressed. They'll drink anything. Sarah returned to the building with her cardiac medication and a bottle of water. How is he? She asked about the young gunman. Worse, the lead gunman replied. He's really sick. Sarah knelt beside the young man. I need to give you this medication. It will help with the chest pain. She opened the vial and poured it into the water bottle. Drink this slowly. The young man drank gratefully. Within minutes, he was drowsy. Is he okay? The other gunman asked. The medication is working, but he needs rest. You both look dehydrated, too. Here, drink some water. She offered the remaining water to the other 2 gunmen. They drank without suspicion. Doctor, the lead gunman said as the sedative began to take effect. I don't feel good. It's the stress, Sarah replied. Just rest for a moment. Within 10 minutes, all 3 gunmen were unconscious. Sarah immediately signaled to the tactical team outside. "All clear," she called out. The tactical team moved in quickly. The remaining hostages were freed. The gunmen were taken into custody. "Nice work, Phoenix," Major Williams said as they left the building. "It's Dr. Chen," Sarah replied. "Phoenix was never here." When Sarah returned to the hospital, it was 6 a.m. Her shift was ending. "Where were you?" Martinez asked. "I needed a consultation on a cardiac patient." "Emergency call," Sarah replied. "Sorry I couldn't be here." "Everything okay?" "Everything's fine. Just helped save some lives." Martinez nodded. "That's what you do," Sarah smiled. "That's what we all do." In the locker room, as Sarah changed out of her uniform, her phone rang. Colonel Murphy. "Phoenix, outstanding work tonight." "Dr. Chen," she corrected, "and that was a one-time thing." "I know, but I want you to know. You're always welcome back." "I'm exactly where I need to be, Jim." "I know. That's what makes you special." As Sarah drove home, she missed the silence of the night shift. But tonight had been a different kind of silence, full of action, full of purpose. In her apartment, she looked in the mirror. She saw tired night nurse Sarah Chen, but there was something else in those eyes in the mirror. Satisfaction. Validation. Phoenix hadn't died. She had just been sleeping. And when needed, she was always there. The next night, Sarah began her shift at St. Mary Hospital again. Everything looked normal. Nothing had changed. "Quiet night," Martinez joked. "Don't say that," Sarah replied. "You know what happens when you say that." But Sarah wasn't afraid of quiet nights anymore, because she knew that whatever happened, she was ready. At 3 a.m., the phone rang. "Nurse Chen to emergency bay." Sarah smiled and began running, because this was her job, saving lives, quietly, without questions being asked, without expecting recognition. The ambulance dispatcher's voice on the phone. "Multiple trauma, ETA 3 minutes." "Copy that," Sarah replied. As she prepared, she looked at her reflection in the mirrors. Nurse Sarah Chen. "But when needed, Phoenix." "Ready for anything," she murmured, "because some people do their duty in uniform, some with medals, but the most effective ones do it when no one is watching." Sarah Chen, night shift nurse, invisible guardian, silent warrior. And her story was just beginning. At St. Mary Hospital, Sarah Chen had become legendary, the night shift nurse who solved impossible cases, who performed miracles in critical situations. But no one knew her real story. They only saw the results. "How does she do it?" young resident Dr. Kim asked Martinez. "Experience," Martinez replied, "and instinct." "But where did she get that experience?" Martinez smiled. "Some people have deep waters. Sarah's deeper than most." That night, Sarah was making her usual rounds, everything normal, peaceful. Her phone rang, unknown number. "Hello?" "Phoenix, this is Murphy," Sarah sighed. "Jim, I told you." "I know, but I wanted you to know. Those assets you helped save, they prevented a major terrorist attack, saved thousands of lives." Sarah nodded. "Good. You did that, Phoenix. You saved those lives." "No," Sarah replied. "Dr. Chen saved those lives. Phoenix was never there." "Phoenix will always be there," Murphy said, "whether you admit it or not." Sarah hung up and continued her rounds. Because that's what she did, save lives, quietly, efficiently, without recognition. In the hospital corridors, under fluorescent lights, a night shift nurse continued her work. Ordinary, unremarkable, invisible, except to those who knew how to look. And in the quiet moments, when the hospital slept, Sarah Chen smiled. Because she knew something no one else did. The best warriors are the ones no one sees coming. The strongest heroes are the ones who never ask for recognition. And sometimes, the most powerful person in the room is the one everyone overlooks. Sarah Chen. Night shift nurse, silent warrior, guardian angel, always watching, always ready, always there. In the shadows of the night shift, heroes walk among us. They don't wear capes or carry weapons. They carry stethoscopes and compassion. And when the world needs saving, they step forward quietly and say, "I've got this."